Twilighters! Thank you so very, very much, as always, for spending your time here with us. Of course, the big case right here, handling shit, making things good. The ever patient, the ever wonderful Casey Fields. Buddy, how you been?
Good, man. Good to be back in the studio with my boys. Our producer, Alex, over there. Great to see his beautiful face.
Which you'll be seeing more of soon. We've got some...
my man, Rogerson.
Soon we'll be hearing some more out of Alex. We're going to have some fun with Alex. He's becoming very interested in the case. He had only a cursory understanding of it. And as we're sitting here filming, I love his reactions. Like, I'm having more fun with this, watching him listen to us. So we've got some fun activities coming up for you. Look for those in the next couple of weeks. Case, are we just going to kind of want to wrap up some of the things we talked about? Does that seem like a good idea? Maybe
I love it.
We could get into some of these snitch rumors, who was who, and what some of these misconceptions are surrounding the raid of August 16th, 1969. Because one of the things you pointed out that I think is incredibly relevant here on Twilight, as always, I'm pumping the brakes. Let's look at the language. Let's not rush through this information. Let's really take it in and consider the moment, because these were entire days that get spoken of in a sentence or two. And some of this was really exciting and dramatic. To garner $2 million to conduct a raid. What would a $2 million raid look like today?
About a $15 million raid.
Right, but just incredible. You think about, in today's money, they spent $2 million, spent about a month and a half to 2 months building a case to have this warrant to examine what is going on with these wild young people at this abandoned movie ranch. And they had, it seems, very little clue about any violence, right? That was going to be perpetrated outside of what surprised me in that 54-page report that Deb brought us from Manson blog. The cops were very cognizant of this threat from the Black Panthers. The cops kept talking about all of these sightings of groups of black people, and some of them were referred to as potential Black Panthers. The cops were really actually kind of building the case of defense if these people on Spawn Ranch were taking up arms or were doing things. So there was an interesting amalgamation of behaviors, and that you got teenagers like Clem in a dune buggy having way too much fucking fun on the back roads, right? You got them trying to plot out Devil's Canyon, kind of lay claim to that.
Yeah, so up in Devil's Canyon, you had this former U.S. Nike missile site on the very top of the hill, and it was decommissioned. And so there's all these fire roads and stuff that go back through the canyon. So there were all kinds of people tearing out, having a good time, acting wild throughout that area. So I think you really have two different groups. You have the just what older people would call troublemakers. They're out doing their thing, in the hills. But then you also had just regular folks that wanted to stop by the ranch to ride some horses. And we hear about this tour bus that pulls up where a bunch of Nigerian travelers get out, and they're probably dressed, I believe, in traditional African attire, and they start freaking out around the ranch thinking, whoa, where are all these people? 20-something people get off this tour bus, and they're starting to lose their shit.
Can you imagine, though? Because at that point, if you saw that many dashiki-clad African headdress, because they got probably those little pillbox hats, right? So you think about what that would mean to someone in the Manson family at that time. You're not thinking these people are necessarily from Africa. I would have assumed, my again, I'm going to project here. David Rogerson's cultural bias would have me in a point of assumption that these men were up from LA and were super hardcore American blacks exhibiting their Afro connection, which then, in my parlance as a kid in the early 70s, so a couple of years after this raid, my family referred to these types as black Muslims. Mm-hmm. So you would think about ultimately militant black men, and there was 20 of them?
Yeah, at least. I mean,
Yeah, so
I guess,
a couple dozen,
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
because I heard like maybe 30.
Mm-hmm. Yep, probably.
Dude just pop off a tour bus randomly, and they're like, hey, Cowboys, cool. Hey, my friend. And then, holy crap.
And I think that's what they were just trying to get a taste of the old American West, right? And this is most of LA. It's all gone by this point.
And so it's just, can you imagine for them, what a wonderful once in a lifetime experience. So they're coming at it from literally the other side of the world, like, yeah, let's check out these Cowboys. Here's the Manson family on lookout for over the top black people who are trying to express their blackness, right? Roll up in a bus, not just some cars like angry black people might do with guns who you've got a drug dispute with, like Bernard Crowe or somebody, right? Who shows up on a bus? Like, and they're all dressed similarly. So wasn't there like a mad rush for some guns and people
I'm sure there
strapped
was.
up?
Yeah, yeah.
I'd heard some informal stories that I can't really corroborate here on camera, and I don't want to overextend myself. But as I recall, yeah, there was talk of people, really, really mustering up, like you looking out the windows like, this motherfucker, it's on, it's gonna happen today. Ooh, ha, ooh, ha. Like, God dang, dude, like I've had friends come over and spook me, like look different. Like when I was in junior high and like smoking some grass at the house or whatever, and my mom's at work, right? And then someone comes over to be like, yeah, man, what's up, dude? And I'm like, ha, 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 with my mom's little pistol, ha, 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 ready to shoot myself in the face. All, whoops. Like these teenage kids, like, oh. So when I read, like, this is just like 2 sentences in a book, right? So thank you all so much, Twilighters, for indulging my excitement, because I read things, I'm like, oh, like, what? That other people, I don't know, maybe they remember a word or two of it. Blacks, Spawn Ranch.
Yeah, I think one of the things that gets lost, we try to throw out a lot of what Bugliosi said, right? With helter-skelter theory. But I actually think there was a race war going on at the time. It's in that pre-phase, I would call it more racial tension.
Absolutely.
And you had like 1968, leader of the Black Panther Party in Los Angeles, Bunchy Carter, was assassinated by a black man, actually, but on the campus of UCLA. I have a friend that was one of the founders of the Black Panthers up here in the Bay Area. There's a lot of racial tension going on.
Well, I like the way you expressed it in terms of almost like a weather event or something that is very natural. And it's because, again, like to make the analogy of a weather event, you've got these high pressure and low pressure situations, these different intensities from these different groups, these different tensions in these different regions, these different things. So for this to hop over from Hollywood, which was really, when you look at Charlie and if we go back and look at Bernard Crowe and that incident, for him to get a phone call at Spawn Ranch from Hollywood, the Magic Castle, right? Mm-hmm. So Chatsworth to the Magic Castle, that's some time to get there. But if you think about, he gets the call, what a badass Charles Manson was. Wait, oh, you're some big sounding black dude? You got some problems? Oh, my guy ripped you off maybe? That's between you and him, whatever. But, oh, you're going to threaten me? You're going to act crazy? I got kids here? You're talking fire? Hey, N-word, check this shit. And dude, if you look at he immediately got in a fucking vehicle. Dude, he was there. He couldn't have been there any quicker.
What's funny to me is
zero fucking delay. And he's like, I'm here to fucking shoot your fucking ass. Like, What? He had a combat veteran with him, Marine veteran in the form of TJ Halliman. And what the fuck, bro?
And he's rolling into his old stomping grounds. So what you're referencing, the Magic Castle, right next to Magic Castle, there's 2 giant apartment buildings. One where Bernard Crow was living, but also Charlie's old apartment back in 1959.
Exactly. That neighborhood, we're going to get into that in the future because that neighborhood is a particular fascination to both Casey and myself. And when we started talking initially, when we first met earlier this year, when that neighborhood came up, we both got so excited. And it's just, we're bubbling on so many different things. I love that whole area. I would love to have spoken with Rosina. I don't know if she's ever going to come out of the woodwork and talk to us, but girl, that was some fascinating stuff.
She's still alive. She lives about an hour and a half from here, but she wants a little bread.
And we don't play that shit because here's the thing. We're not going to fuck around and influence the input of this show because if I'm here trying to establish our integrity, our bedrock for research, Deb Silva's here. Deb Silva's got how many years in this thing? How much personal money in this? How much dedication? How much of her fucking life? And what did she do? She not only made herself available, she continually feeds us as a little baby as we are.
For free.
For fucking free. Out of the goodness of her heart because she feels as we do. It's not about us. It's not about being the best of the best, which are you, Twilighters. What it is, it's about our fascination with this case, how we all came together, and why we keep having these questions. But this whole weather pattern, it doesn't mean because there wasn't an out and out visible tornado that they could chart, August 16th, 69, the tornado started. Well, it doesn't mean that there wasn't a tropical storm and there wasn't collateral damage, indirect damage. Because part of this, in our focus, the damage, which sometimes doesn't get thought of, Bernard Crow himself. Bro, because of this tension, because of these misunderstandings, because of the short-sighted, immature, let's just say straight up dick moves of one Charles Watson. Guy was a fucking prick. I think he may have been involved in some very heinous crimes against women. He was certainly a thief, a liar, a drug swindler, and many other things that were very unsavory. So you've got this guy pulling shit on someone who seemed like a legit street operator who worked, as Charles Manson did, by the code of the outlaw, right?
And wasn't just some low-level drug dealer, Bernard Crow, I'm speaking of, was actually providing drugs to Dennis Wilson, Melcher, that whole side.
That's what Deb has pointed out continually that I think is why a lot of the perspectives of this case are shifting. Like you say, we don't need to throw Bugliosi out with the bathwater. What we need is this, Twilighters, Deb Silva, who is here for free. So Rosina, we're not giving you shit. We're not. Fuck that. If Red is going to talk to us, if we become bedrock enough for Ms. Lynette Fromme to speak to us as she will with pure integrity, she's not asking us for anything. You want to come up in here and speak with us, which I really hope you will sometime. Understand, no one will ever be paid except for producer Alex one day, I hope.
Absolutely.
So here we are rolling down the track. Mr. Bernard Crow gets ventilated. Mr. Charles Manson becomes an attempted and assumed at the time murderer. Okay. What does that do to your mindset? Okay. When you shoot somebody, my voice went up there. Whoa. Okay. When you even think about shooting someone, it is a very stressful event. Like TJ, I'm sure, pulled some PTSD and some bad feelings just being there. Charlie, trying to do the right thing, shoots an unarmed man in his own apartment with his friends present. That can put you in a heightened state. If you've ever operated in a psychotic state, you can do it quite effectively, but you are in a very deep state of paranoia, of operative awareness, and you can really cut some things out that are unnecessary.
The Crow thing is a mystery to me because we don't have any record of him being taken to the hospital during his 2 or 3 weeks in the hospital. He was allegedly visited by police officers. There's no report available. We've never even seen an x-ray of the bullet inside of Crow's spine. So I'm not saying it didn't happen. I do believe that he was shot, but the events surrounding that whole Crow thing, and I got to give Crow credit. He didn't snitch.
No, but his testimony, I want to give love to George Stimson. His clarity on Crow's character and his wonderful testimony and turning me onto Crow's testimony, it really added so much more understanding and depth to this case, and then becoming friends with Deb, wonderful Deb Silva, mansonblog.com. Her perspective, as I was saying, turning the satellite to its correct orientation, where she pointed out, well, Bernard Crow, the interesting thing about him is not so much his connection to the Mansons. It's more about, as she said, the other side of the equation. He was servicing
Greg Jacobson, Dennis Wilson, Brian Lukashevsky, who was there. Hey, Luca, I know you're in Hawaii right now, and you don't want to say you were there. It's all right. We're not gonna, we're not gonna go that far.
We'll never bust you out, bro. We won't.
But
in Hawaii, we would never do that.
But Luca was Brian Wilson's best friend and surfing buddy. But he was there for this incident.
Absolutely. And so these things are all wonderful, how they're connected. But again, it's our perception and our willingness to slow down and take this information in. That's why we thank you all again so much for paying attention, for understanding the ins and outs of this case enough where we can just start speaking, that we don't have to talk about the killing of the unborn baby of Sharon Tate. Because we know the victim suffering, the family suffering. We're not here to shame anybody, to mock anybody, or to speak in any form of disrespect. And that's why, for me, this whole thing about snitches, people that's one way other people got dirted during this whole thing and during this raid. It was post Bernard Crow. The cops are going to do this raid. And I think it's interesting. There's been murder threats allegedly uttered by Charles himself, as well as repeated by Grogan to the fire department officers and
those fire department guys reported to the police of the firearms that they saw there and
the vehicles being stripped.
Yep.
And then apparently at one point, like I say, this phrase is just shocking. I mean, I don't know how real it is because I've spoken to survivors and different people and they're like, who made these reports? Who said these things? But this report is pretty clean. It's pretty much in a place where it has to be right on the money because there's so many jurisdictions, I would think. I could be wrong. But when they talk about allegedly Charlie saying, well, how about you just find yourself dead, hanging upside down from that fucking tree right there, bud? Like, that's...
I have a feeling that it started with the fire crews being pissed off that their gate locks were cut and that the new locks that weren't there were being put on these fire roads. So I think they might have been the ones to kind of tip off the authorities to what was going on at Spawn Ranch. I also know that the authorities were pissed because they had this kind of I don't even know if this is the word to say, but nightclub going on
Yeah.
at Spawn
Helter
Ranch, you know,
Skelter.
and they hit George Spawn with a big fine for running a establishment without a permit, you know.
Cabaret license is what he
Yeah.
was lacking. Exactly.
Yeah,
The girls
so-
talk very fondly of that still.
A lot of stuff in July and early August, even before the Tate LaBianca murders, that the cops had their eyes on, which is really the premise from which they got their warrant for the August 16th raid, which is amazing because they didn't even have any knowledge at the time of Gary Hinman's murder, the Bernard Crowe shooting, or the Tate LaBianca murders.
And all those things had occurred. And like I said before, as a child, flipping through the Helter Skelter book, I kept looking at the date. I'm like, wait a minute. This, there's an extra digit on here. August, it's supposed to be August 8th. What's the 16th business? And I could not believe. And then they've got Charlie with the broken ribs. We've got DeCarlo with what? Didn't he have like a broken nose? Somebody had a broken nose. Was it DeCarlo?
I can't remember. I know DeCarlo was handcuffed in the front
That
while the rest were handcuffed in the back.
That's very suspect. I've brought that up recently with very knowledgeable sources, and that just seemed to be a non-starter. I don't understand why.
I don't have any great proof on this. I've studied DeCarlo's arrest record, and I know that he was indicted on federal gun charges way prior to meeting anybody in the Manson family. And he did some kind of deal with them, not just later on to testify, but personally, this is just speculation, but I believe that he did a deal with the feds prior to meeting the Manson family. And I don't know if he was put in there as like what do you call that?
Agent provocateur?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Or because he just showed up at the ranch to work on some vehicles, do some mechanic work. But I don't know. At the very
fit though, that's almost too perfect of a fit. But maybe there's elements of that because maybe in the opportunity of this happening, he's having to report to the feds, right? Every once in a while, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
Like, DeCarlo, you're going to need to report into us. Right? So they're over there, with the zipper on the side of the van. Shoot the moon. Like Sergeant Stadenko, right?
And I would think he would be hit with additional charges if he wasn't working with the feds.
Well, so
There's
what I was
some-
thinking...
yeah, I'm sorry.
No worries. When I was... when they were checking in with them, they would naturally ask, right? Well, what have you got for us, DeCarlo? What are you doing, DeCarlo? What's happening, DeCarlo? And then him, because just lickety split he seemed, right? So he's over here looking around like just doing his natural thing, which would have been going to the ranch. And then maybe he did put it together. I'm not sure. But what I have gotten for sure very recently, they didn't call him Donkey Dan. There were a couple girls who really gravitated towards him. He was very funny. He was a very likable guy. When you have humor, that of course is always rooted in intelligence.
I heard that he was drunk like all the time.
Pretty smashed from his own admission. And that's another thing. So
And him and Shorty Shea liked to kick him back. And DeCarlo was from the Toronto Northeast area, as was Shorty from Boston. So I think you brought it up in a previous episode.
Right.
That when Shorty used to throw him back, that Boston accent would really come out.
which to me is so crazy because like when I spazzed out on that first episode with Deb, the whole thing was I'm seeing these events as like movie posters. So when you've got Charlie squatting on a rock who represents all coming evil, he's the hippie greasy scourge with the beard and just everything you don't want your children to be or be around. Like he's the awfulness of the future. And has this dagger, which is what? The greatest symbol of like murderous, evil, assassin, badness, bordering on cowardice. So here he is. Here's the big hero guy, big old Shorty Shea, Mr. America, who sometimes slipped into a Boston accent. What the hell? So he's clomping along allegedly with a woman. So you've got this representation of family, red-blooded Americana. They're literally on a cowboy movie set. Just the sound of boots on those sidewalks is just amazing. As a guy who loves to wear boots, dude, let me get on some wood sidewalks, people. Just, man, I'll walk up and down all day. So he's having this experience, and the whip, here's this dagger dead in his face, almost hits a woman.
Yeah.
And it's this scumbag, Charles Manson, and you can just see the font, right? Ha, cowboy killers, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, just what a great event for a high noon movie poster type expression. And this is just, that was one part of an afternoon.
It seems like from what I've read, that this was a regular activity that they would do. They sat on this old beat up couch and they'd throw knives at like hay bales and stuff, you know?
Yes, young people do. It's like whatever you had. Sometimes it's mumbledy-peg. We had, as my fingers will testify, we got butterfly knives out of the blue in the desert. They just showed up.
This one where you put your hand down?
Well, that's mumbledy-peg, I think, right? Well, this was like butterfly knives where you just flip them around, these Bali Song Filipino fighting knives, right? Well, we got this, somehow, this one kid wound up with a bunch of them in Ridgecrest. And so we just would all finagle our ways into them. Or once we knew what they were, we'd see them in LA, or you go on a trip, you get them. So we just would be fucking around with, our thing was butterfly knives. But yeah, throwing a hatchet or throwing a knife, like a bunch of guys hanging around smoking reefer, and you got some hay bales. That just sounds like a great way to fuck off a whole bunch of afternoons, right? Mm. And then but what a bunch of events, you know? These are now supremely iconic events. If we had photographs of each day, no one would miss the opportunity to take each frame in. It's become that precious. It's like the Beatles at this point. You know, you'd see the little piece of the towel that they wipe their sweat off of themselves at the Hollywood Bowl that would be for sale at Beatle Fest. And you'd be like, whoa, dude, they're selling that. That's trippy. And now, you know what I mean? Like, well, of course it's sold. Like, God, that thing's, you know what I mean? It's like the Shroud of Turin or something.
Yeah.
So anything Manson now is like that. It's just, and there's
soap dishes and shower shoes.
Echinacea. Echinacea from 93. Let's get Ben Gorecki on the case. Ben Gorecki, can I pay you way too much money for Charles Manson's expired echinacea? It's only 31 years out of date, friend. Like, what the fuck? And that shit is like, you know, people like act like, well, of course. Shit, man. Anything having to do with anything. We need to go through Fromme's garbage and like make fights about it. And it's just, it's really people, we are here strictly out of love for each other. Let's breathe. Let's get back to the excitement of this whole thing. And
let's not be weird about it.
Please. Dude, we're adults. This is cool. Like, you just got off of work, right? You're thinking, hey, man, why is it fucking Friday and I'm just now getting my Twilight? Well, you know what happened? I wanted to deal with my insecurities as a small child and see if anyone gave a fuck. So I made everyone wait a day because I needed that note of concern. So thank you both for writing me. Twilighters, we love you. This raid is going to be a constant source of conversation for us. Again, thank you so much for spending your life with us. We want to be here to reciprocate. Keep these comments popping. We're not doing too good, people. What's up with the comments? I'm excited. You YouTubers out there who are killing it and complaining about it, 500,000 subscribers and you're bitching you don't have any money. I don't know what that looks like. We have 67 subscribers.
Hey,
Are you
do us a
kidding?
favor, because I know there's a couple thousand people in this community. Tell your friends in the
Please.
groups. There's a lot of great groups out there. Let them know about the show. We're just trying to start something new and fun.
Yeah, and please, ideas or collaborations you may have, you want to come on and talk to us, you got something to say, please be a part of this. Again, Twilighters, right? It's not the fucking personality show. We're here to talk about counterculture coolness. You know somebody who manufactures LSD? We want to talk to him. You know somebody who's got interesting political views, who's done some things, who's very active and cool, like a Joe McDonald? We're hoping to talk to him. We've got all kinds of things planned for you right now. This corner of the Manson subject is just so rife and fun. So thank you for indulging us and for being, again, Twilighters. You 67 who are with us today, I can't thank you enough. But the rest of y'all, come on, people. Give us a dang subscribe, would you please? Would you please? Because like I say, we want to keep doing this. Someone asked me the other day if I was a YouTuber. And I was sitting there and I was, well, wait a minute. Like I have a YouTube channel with a clock. Shit. Guys, if I'm supposed to be a YouTuber, I know I haven't been doing this very long, but this is, bro, like, come on, man. Seriously, like, come on. Help me out. What about you guys? What about Hussey and y'all who are out here been doing it? Please, like,
That's a YouTuber.
baby, I subscribed and liked you. I mean, come on, guys. I guess I'm a YouTuber. I didn't know. But if I'm supposed to be operating and my lifeblood is likes and subscriptions, I mean,
Thankfully, it's not. We got our own shit going.
bro. I mean, dude, what do I do? Like, I mean, I wouldn't, man, I'd be kind of hurting right now. Am I supposed to be upset right now?
Nah.
Come on, guys. Anyhow, Twilight for you. And again, thank you so much. Everyone who lived through this, who's here to set the record straight, who's listening, who cares that we care. Because it's, not, again, never about us. It's about the community. It's about the knowledge and those that went before us. We love you very much. And graciously, from the bottom of our hearts, Casey, walk us on out, baby.
For those of you that are with us, we love you. We appreciate you. And we're doing this all for you. So please keep subscribing and tuning in. And we'll see you next week on Twilight Garage.